Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Block Party. I'm your host, Mike Wall. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that subscribe button, rate and review us, leave us some comments. What you want to see next as far as specifically with Block Party. We dive into all different kinds of offensive, defensive line play, usually in the professional game. But if there's something you guys want to see, let me know, especially as this draft's coming up. But I want to talk Super Bowl today, and we spent a lot of time talking about the Eagles offense. It's one of my favorite offenses to watch, probably them and the 49ers. But let's face facts. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football right now. The Chiefs do have the number one offense. I'm going to look through the ranks right now, their overall stats. And Chiefs points per game, yards per game, points per play, yards per play. Third and fourth down conversion. They're top two in literally every offensive category. They pass the ball 62% of the time. So I want to go back and look at. I think the Philadelphia Eagles defense is fantastic. They're ranked somewhere between number 2, number 4, depending on where you look at. But there's a couple of things. If you go back in the last kind of 5 or 6 games of the Chiefs, they've had a ton of success. They've put up a lot of points. Where have teams been able to slow them down? And there was actually, believe it or not, there was a game against the last place Texans where they won in overtime 30-24. I know 30 points is a lot. You're talking about overtime, and they picked up most of those points towards the end of the game. But as far as like a game plan to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, or at least not to slow down Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, when you watch that game, break it down, we're going to break down that film right now. It comes down to kind of 3 rules that you have to live by when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's dive into this right now. Their offensive line, I've talked about it ad nauseum. I really think the Chiefs' offensive line, the interior offensive line in particular. So you got Joe Thuney, who came over from the New England Patriots. Their first or second round pick, Creed Humphrey. Second round pick, Creed Humphrey. And then Trey Smith. Those guys have been doing a fantastic job. I actually think they're a little bit of a liability. I know Orlando Brown Jr. has made a couple Pro Bowls now, and then they have Andrew WAHLE on the other side. If there's anywhere that is a liability on this team, I think it's those two in pass protection, particularly 77 against Hassan Reddick going up into this game. I think WAHLE's got his hands full. Not that they're not good players, but we're trying to find soft spots in the number 1 ranked offense of the league. It starts with this, though. When you look at this Texans team, who's arguably not the most talented team in the National Football League. Jerry Hughes had a great year. They've got some thumpers at the linebacker position. But number 1, you got to stop the inside zone. And if their strength is the interior of the line, a lot of stuff that they run is based off of their inside zone play action pass, their inside zone quick looks. And you have to commit a certain amount of people to the line of scrimmage, but the fewer you can commit, particularly if you can win with your interior defensive tackles. The Philadelphia Eagles at the defensive tackle position, we've talked about this. They are 5 deep. They've got Linval Joseph, Ndamukong Suh. They've got Javon Hargraves. They've got, obviously, Fletcher Cox. And then they'll bring down either Josh Sweat or Brandon Graham into nickel. So I'm looking at it as a 4 to 5 man rotation of really, really, really good players. And you just think about, can we stay off the double teams? Can we keep our linebackers clean? Can guys like Kazir White and TJ Edwards fly around and just make tackles for 1-2 yard gains? If we can do that, rule number 1, we put them in disadvantageous positions. Now, the Texans, we'll start this by saying that the Texans had answers in the first half and the Chiefs made halftime adjustments. So it's almost like you got to come in with 2 game plans, but just as a basic principle of what we're trying to look at, because you got to remember Andy Reid's an absolute offensive genius. You have to be able to stop the run. Now, one thing that worked in the first half, didn't work in the second, is when they went man motion across the field, the Texans immediately brought down safety pressure, and they slanted the defensive end across WAHLE's face. This happened a couple times, worked like a charm. Pacheco gets stopped for about a 2-yard gain. Everybody's fired up. This one actually was a fumble. So you've stopped the run, and now you just have to make sure that when they get these short passes, particularly with Kelsey, you have to make short passes short plays. You have no extra yards. You have to tackle well. The Philadelphia Eagles, they play a lot of man. They play a lot of match. They'll play some split safety about 25-30% of the time. So when you get the opportunity to find those pockets, from the Chiefs' standpoint, they usually turn those 5-yard, even 2-yard throws into like 10-yard gains because their ability to run after catch, particularly with Kelsey, going to be a really interesting matchup in this game with Gardner Johnson versus Kelsey, and just how they deal with their man-match stuff in general with the guy on him. But if they're going to play that soft zone, play that 2 shell, and just kind of dare you to go the field, well, then you're going to have to tackle at an extremely high level, and we'll see that not only in the passing game here, but also in the run game. So this is something the Texans did really well, and you just see from a leverage position, I think it's Kersey, who's the linebacker, is completely outflanked here, but ends up making this play, short of the first down marker. And these are just little things that add up over the course of the game. Now this turns into a 4th down play. So this is a 4th and 3 decision that they have to make as opposed to a conversion on 3rd down. And we see the pitch play. This is WAHLE pulling out. He's looking for the alley. The alley doesn't come. Linebacker shoots underneath. This is not WAHLE's fault. This just happened. This is one of those things where if you're the linebacker and you trigger and you make this, you go after Pacheco like this guy does, you have to be able to make this play. Now, when we think about Kazir White and TJ Edwards, I look at Kazir White, I go, this is a guy that's absolutely going to run underneath this and try to make this play. The Eagles do run a similar style defense, for 25, 30% of the game. These are opportunities as long as you can kind of, at the edges, flatten this play out like their first-round draft pick does here. Force them to the sideline, force that running back to stay flat and chase. Now all of a sudden, you have an opportunity to run underneath and just kind of be right. You just have to be right when you make these kind of plays against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the last thing, I know this sounds silly because Patrick Mahomes is such a dynamic player on the move, and he makes so many things happen. But he's also the number 1 rated pocket passer in the National Football League. So if I'm going to pick the lesser of 2 evils, I want to make him move. I want to get him off the spot. And I think a couple times during this game in particular, like you see, there's free rushers, and it just plays that, yes, normally he makes that pass. They get a 5-yard completion. They get a 7-yard completion. But when you get anybody to move their feet, when you put anybody around his ankles, when you put anybody in harm's way, the percentages of them completing passes are just going to go down. It's a natural phenomenon. So I know that he pulls some things out of thin air, but these are kind of the opportunities you have to look for. You look at WAHLE here. We'll kind of highlight both guys, but there's opportunities because of the way they set. So he short sets here. Listen, offensive linemen out there, I know your coaches want you to angle set, and I know you want a short set. We'll go back and look at this again because I can't help but highlight it. It's just one of my pet peeves. I don't understand. It's a battle for real estate. You want to get to your spot under control. Right now, this man is moving forward, and you're trying to go at a hard angle to attack him. You're not under control here. This guy's going to get the short corner. You've just made it too easy. This is what we always talk about. You have to get 5 yards of depth, and you have 15 yards of width to get there, and you've done it to yourself just because of the way you set. It doesn't make any sense. People do it all the time. Ends up turning into an incompletion. The other thing I think we'll see, Hassan Reddick is going to give WAHLE they're going to have to throw a lot of guys at him. If he's one-on-one, he's going to give him problems. My only point here is this is obviously a holding call. This isn't a holding call against the last place league and a team in the league. Referees don't call this sometimes. I guarantee they call this play in the Super Bowl. Got to make those tackles. And then Orlando Brown Jr., look, he's having good years. He's going to be I think he's a free agent again. He's going to be a highly coveted free agent if that's the case. You see just by his stance, he's already halfway open to the sideline. And what this really means is now he's going to take a big kick and he gets his footwork or his feet kind of close together. What that really does is open up the inside opportunities. And we know that Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick both have the ability to go inside or outside with the rush. They can take hard angles. When you take hard angles against this team, Patrick Mahomes can escape. But the tackles open themselves up for opportunities to get beat inside, get beat outside. And this isn't quite like, I don't feel like, as good as Patrick Mahomes is, he's not quite the runner that Jalen Hurts is. This isn't like the film we broke down last week where Jalen Hurts, man, you go down the middle, he can go either direction. You go high, he goes low, you go low, he goes high. Like there's nothing you can do. This isn't quite the case. Now, having said all that, you see the inside spin because of Orlando Brown's footwork. You just see this huge initial kick slide bang there. Now he's open. His feet are parallel with one another. He has to open up. Bad body position. Now, having said all that, I put this play in here because you just go like, wait, what? Patrick Mahomes finds Kelsey, as he always does, across the field in one of the most highly coached plays in the National Football League. As a don't do this play, just allow the one person on the planet to do it that does it consistently. I think you see the TE game here on the right side of the offensive line, left of our screen. Trey Smith misses with his hands. Again, he's flat setting. Wiley does a good job of picking this up, but because he flat sets, he's trying to pirouette now and spin out of this. Anytime, I don't care who you are, what quarterback, if you see a free rusher like that, as soon as you get to the top of your drop, unless you have literally, 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yard play pass routes going on with quick hitches, the ball is not going to be gone. He's going to try to buy some time. Mahomes is one of those guys that feels very, very comfortable buying time, but now you've got athletic defensive ends coming up the middle that can actually chase you anywhere you go. And he ends up making crazy plays. He's just, he's a phenomenal quarterback. He ends up getting hit in the arm there the last play. But again, I want to reiterate this. He's amazing out of the pocket, but he is number one in the pocket right now. So you got to pick your poison. These are kind of the ones that if you're an Eagle, you're trying to figure out, can we just beat protection? The Pacheco's in there. He's had a great year. You see that he's scanning. You can see he's scanning across the field. The left tackle and left guard are going to fan out to 49 and 52. So that usually means the center's going to take 93. And it usually means that we're going to scan from 58 to 48 to 36, depending on anybody coming off the corner. Excuse me. As you watch this, he just over pursues. And that's really because 58 does a phenomenal job of coming tight here. And it's just, this is lane discipline at its finest. So when you watch this play, a ton of teams run this, but they don't run it coming this tight off the guy. So he's right off of Thuney's foot. And because of that, Pacheco, as he comes over hard to make that contact, he just over pursues. That space is opening up to the right as he's moving to his left, right? So this is something you almost want to throttle down, get your hand on the hip of the guard, and then be ready for it, right? AG would do a better job of explaining this from a running back position standpoint than I will, but I'll just say mechanically, obviously he's crossing over here because he's out of position. He's out of position because he was so desperate to get over there. He didn't think that maybe they're going to run the end down, back or around, which they've shown. So this is just really a Will Mike game for those of you out there, who know a little bit about linebacker stunts. This is really just a Will Mike game with the end coming down, but he just runs it so tight that it's really difficult to pick up unless you're prepared for it, unless you've anticipated it, unless you've seen it in practice, just like they're running in the game. Great job. Now, all that said, that's mostly first half stuff. They end up scoring 30 points in this game. I know it's in overtime, so they scored their last 6 in overtime. It was tied 24-24 at the end of play. So the Texans technically held them under their season average of 28 points. But in the second half, bringing the safety on the blitz with the end coming down, crashing hard in the run game didn't work because they started running play action pass, pop the quick play to the receiver out the gate to get 10, 15 yards. They do that 2 times. All of a sudden, you're not comfortable running that play. You have to make a lot of halftime adjustments for this team because, of all the plays that I'm showing that didn't work out, there's a ton of plays that just by scheme, by formation, by personnel, by Patrick Mahomes, by the talent they have on the table, they're making plays against the Houston Texans. The Texans did a great job of forcing a couple turnovers. They did a great job of stopping some people early in the run game and really shutting them down for the most part in the first half. I think they scored 7 points in the first half. When you look at the Philadelphia Eagles and the power and the strength that they have up front, in particular that inside zone, the ability to take away that inside zone with their interior defensive tackles, and then the ability to rush on those tackles, which I really do think of all the places is the weakest link in that game, just because I think the interior of their line's better than their 2 tackles, particularly Andrew Wiley, 77. Not a bad player, but you see anytime you try to pass it, change it up, set flat, set at an angle, you're going to get beat inside, outside, you can get your hands wiped, short corner. And as good as Patrick Mahomes is, Hassan Reddick can move just as well. He's like 6'2", 242. Josh Sweat's like 6'4", 260. I mean, these guys are fast, athletic guys, can get after. Brandon Graham's still there. He had 11 sacks this season. So they're going to be able to do a lot of those things. The one thing that we don't really know until we see it is, are they going to be able to tackle after the catch? Like, how many yards after contact are we going to get? Kind of our second rule there, make sure they get them down early. Don't let them get yards after contact. Gardner Johnson matchup with Kelsey we talked about is going to be huge. We'll talk about that more on my block on Thursday. But that whole secondary matchup and how they want to play with Bradbury and Slade versus Smith-Schuster and MVS, and then how that translates into their matchups when they go man or match with their safeties. Are they going to bring in? Are they going to match their nickelback Maddox? I doubt it. Are they going to match him up with White? That happened a couple times in base. Against some other opponents. So these are things that are possible, but it'll be really interesting to see how they attack. I mean, that's really going to be the game. Like, can you stop Kelsey? Can you get him under 10 catches? Like, for me, if you get him under 10 catches, that maybe should have been the rule. If you can get Kelsey under 10 catches, you're probably going to win this game, because you just figure the way they're going to go, he's got like 17 targets, right? You want to force the Chiefs to run the ball. They throw it 62% of the time. So you're hoping, man, if I can get that up to like 50-50, 55-45, I'm feeling pretty good about myself, actually, because the ball's out of the best player on the field's hands. So those are our three keys on Block Party. You see what the potential is as far as being able to move guys around, be able to move on the line of scrimmage. We don't know how good, particularly, I didn't really talk about this in the beginning, but when you are bringing safeties down and you are moving those guys and you're trying to defeat that inside zone, a lot of like lateral movement on the line works for an amount of time. Right, with this team, they're so well coached. Andy Heck's a great offensive line coach. They're so well coached that if you keep moving laterally, you're going to create huge gaps. And then it comes down to rule number 2: can you tackle when you have the opportunity? So hope you enjoyed that. Block Party is out every week. It'll be fun to do after the Super Bowl, obviously, seeing what we're bringing into this game this weekend. Follow me, MikeWall68, on TikTok and Twitter. Process to Perform on Instagram. Again, subscribe, like us if you can. Appreciate it, guys. Have a great week. Looking forward to this game.